Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another wonderful, informative, healing episode with me, your girl, Summer. I hope everyone has been enjoying their week, enjoying their day. And now let's relax, educate, gain some knowledge, gain some strength, gain some wisdom. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share. Also, hit the little bell so that you receive a notification every time another episode comes out so you never miss a moment to heal. That's like the best thing you can do for yourself is give yourself some healing and some self-love. And please don't forget the link to my wonderful book, Beautifully Dead, written by me, of course. It is in the information on my page, y'all. But don't forget to go check it out. Hit that link. Get you a copy. So today, we are going to be discussing how to heal from a narcissist, right? It's tough, for one. First, you need to realize that you're in a relationship with a narcissist. Because in the very beginning, they come off so charming, so loving, like they are just this amazing person. And oh my gosh, they treat you like the queen and king that you are. That is how it starts. And then once they get you, then comes the abuse, the gaslighting. The gaslighting happens, the tearing of who you are as an individual, the isolating you from everyone. It all just starts to happen. And it comes in waves, it's not like an everyday consistent thing. That's not how a narcissist operates. They'll be abusive one day and then, the next day it's just like the love bombing, which psychologically fucks you up in the head because you're thinking one day, this person is so awful, treating me it's mind-blowing, the abuse they instill onto their partner, but then the next day they're so loving and just, oh, let's go do this, let me buy you this, it's just like, wait, like mentally you're so conflicted and you're just like, wait a fucking second, And so at first it's very tough because you don't even realize that you're in a relationship with a narcissistic person until you're deep in it. And so it is definitely difficult to pull yourself out of it. And I know this from experience because I was with my ex for 17 and a half years. Yes, and I left a number of times, always came right back because mentally I was at war with myself because he completely just like tore me down to where I had no belief in myself. So, how can you even recognize that you're in a relationship with a narcissist? Y'all know I got my notes. What does narcissistic abuse look like? It's the exploiting others for personal gain, the believing in themselves to be superior to others, the wanting of excessive admiration. You guys, it's exhausting when you're in a relationship with a narcissistic person. They're unable to empathize with others' feelings. They behave in an arrogant fashion, expecting special treatment all the time, and an automatic compliance with their demands. And so I know this firsthand because, again, I say my ex was this way. He never understood how I felt, for one. And I would break it down in just layman's terms, like the simplest of way. You made me feel A, B, C, D. And it was just never understanding. He never could comprehend the way that I felt. And he would behave in such an arrogant way. He always thought he was so much better than everyone else, including me. And why would you want to feel as if you're better than your spouse, than your partner? We're equals in this. He always also wanted me to just be complacent to his way of doing everything. Like, I don't know how many times we would argue if I had a difference of opinion, if I had a different view on something. It was always an argument. I would always say to him, like, it's okay for me to have my own viewpoint. It's okay for me to think differently. It's okay for me to have an idea that's different than yours. Like, I could never grasp why that was so hard for him to understand that everybody has a difference of opinion. Everybody has their own way of perceiving things. So it's either you can agree to disagree so that there's no, and I would say that too, like, we can agree to disagree. Like, that's totally fine. Okay. Like it was never something that, it's never something that a narcissistic person will grasp, like, ever. And so those traits, that's what leads to the abuse, because they have a hard time understanding other people's feelings, and they expect you to give them what they want all the time. So he would always expect me to just give him everything of what he wanted. And it didn't matter how I felt. I can remember one time he was asking me to take his braids out. And I don't remember at the time, like, I didn't feel like it. Because I remember when I would take his braids out, he would throw a tantrum like a child that was very tender-headed. And it's just like, I don't want to deal with that, Like, you're a grown man, I'm taking your hair out, and you over here screaming and yelling, talking about that hurts, what are you doing? Okay, you're a grown man, take your own braids out. Because I'm not about to deal with you lashing out at me because it hurts me taking your hair out. And so one day he was asking me, to take his braids out. And I was like, I don't feel like it. Like, you do it, like, you do it. You guys, when I say he behaved like a child, he behaved like a little child. He was stomping back and forth across the hallway, yelling at the top of his lungs. And at this time, we didn't have kids. And so he's yelling at the top of his lungs, like, you're not going to take my braids out, my braids, my hair. And I'm just sitting there like, yo, you are, like, literally losing your mind right now. Like, it was just, I was amazed as to the tantrum this grown man was throwing because I wouldn't take his hair out. Throughout that relationship, it was, it's hard to leave a narcissistic person because, like I said in the beginning, the abuse happens gradually. And so first, once they know they have you, then the abuse comes. And so for me, my experience was, he would, remind me that everything was his. He would always tell me, no one's going to treat you how I do. No one's going to love you. Nobody wants you. And so And at the time, I was very young, and I grew up in an abusive household, and he knew these things. And so him telling me, knowing that I felt that my family didn't care about me and didn't love me, he used that as a form of manipulation to gain mind control over me, to make me really believe and think that no one did love me. No one is going to love me. This is the only person, taking care of me, doing everything financially, because that's the way he wanted that. And back then I didn't know he was financially abusing me. He didn't want me to work. And the times when I would get a job and I would work, he would tell me to quit because my job was inconveniencing his life, because we couldn't just go and do anything at the drop of a dime, because I have to work, or I have to call out, I have to see if I can get the time off. And so he would always say, man, your job is getting in the way of life. Like, just quit your job. You don't need that job. Like, I'm thinking, like, he's right. I'm not able to just like go and do this with him and just like go hang out, whatever. Like, let me just quit so I can be free for him, And again, he did have money, and so it was like, he has money, he could take care of everything. But not thinking he's actually making me lose my independence. Because if I have a job, I have my own income coming in, he's not able to control me as easy as it would be if I wasn't working, because he has all the money. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't clicking at that time. And so just over a period of time, they will begin to also not just financially abuse you, but they begin to isolate you from your friends and family. And so him knowing that how I felt about my family, it was easy for him to isolate me from them. And that was one thing. And then even friends now. So being from California and now living in Nevada, it was kind of easy for him to isolate me from my friends. So my friends in California, I began to distance myself from, because he would say, oh, they not your friends. They don't care about you. They don't care about you. And I'm believing it because we wouldn't really talk all the time. I could never sing. Life happens. Life moves on. And that's how it is. You're not going to, it's not like high school anymore, where you see. I began to, associate myself just with his friend group. He had a circle of friends and they had girlfriends. And so we would all hang out. But then once he saw that, okay, she's making friends with my friends' girlfriends, he would then not let me go and hang out with them. It was always a fight, an argument. It wasn't just like, no, I don't want you to go. It was like a fight, an argument, to where during and at the end of the argument, it's like, I don't even want to go now. Like, who wants to go out anywhere when this is what you have to deal with? So it just became, and see, that's that psychological warfare that they began to initiate in your mind to make you feel and think and believe and not even just want to do stuff. Because now I'm at the point where I know if I tell him, like, oh, I'm going to go out with so-and-so, we're going to go do this, there's going to be an argument. You don't want to deal with that. You just don't want to deal with it. It's your way of rationalizing, I don't want to deal with this, so I'm not going to go. Not thinking, this is abuse. When you're in a relationship with someone, you have a life outside of that relationship. And that's healthy. That's okay. It's okay for you to go and hang out with your friends. It's 100% okay. But a narcissistic person likes to have control. They don't want you associating with anyone because they're not able to control that relationship when you're outside of doing anything with them. So that's the thing right there. And over time, I began to just convince myself and believe like, okay, well, if I stop doing this, everything will be okay. Or he'll be better. He'll be better. It's just a bad day. That's how they want you to think. They want you to think that, yeah, it's just a bad day. And actually, all of this is your fault. And so I remember another time, I forget what it was, but he was disrespectful. I think he called me like a bitch. And I expressed to him, don't speak to me that way. It's disrespectful. Every time I challenged him, criticized him for his behavior, it was an issue. It was an argument. And so that day he called me a bitch. I remember him saying, it's the way you talk to me when you're telling me that you don't like something. That's the issue. And I remember, okay, I'm going to make a mental note of this because, again, they want you to think and believe that it's you. It's not them. And so I remember that day, okay, the next time he does something, I'm going to be so consciously aware of how I communicate my hurt feelings, right? So again, it wasn't too long after that, there was another incident where he did something and it hurt my feelings. I didn't like it. You guys, I whispered. I was talking so low to this dude and communicating my feelings. And it still turned into an argument. It still turned into him lashing out. I knew then, and I even said to him, you're still arguing and fighting with me. I communicated my feelings to you in a soft, cool, calm, whispered tone, and you're still arguing with me. I don't understand. And like at this time, I'm like battling with myself still. Like there's nothing that I'm ever going to do to make you react in a respectful, civilized manner. And still, even then, he said, no, you're just crazy. The way you're talking to me is crazy. And I'm like, no, because I know how I communicated to you just now. And you're still in a rage. So I knew then it was never going to be anything that I could do to communicate with him better, to make him respond in a respectful way. So I just said, forget it. However I communicate is how I communicate, because now I realize there's nothing that I can say or do. And so that was another thing that made me aware there's nothing that I'm ever going to be able to do. And when you're in a relationship with a narcissistic person, honestly, there's nothing that you're ever going to be able to do in your power to be good enough to appease them. There's nothing that you can ever do to make them understand, respect, or care. And there was a time we were talking, and we would always every time we would have a big fight, we would have these conversations. And see, this was his way of yet again manipulating me into believing things were going to get better. Because we would have these talks, and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. When I really wasn't. I really, really wasn't getting anywhere. I was never getting through to him to understand how I felt, because a narcissistic person is incapable of understanding how anybody else feels. We were having this conversation, And I was just asking him, like, why do you never care about how I feel? Like, explain to me why you never care. This was his answer. If I don't feel that I did anything wrong, it doesn't matter how you feel. And I was blown away. I like that. I was like, what? Like, I was so just like, really? So if I'm telling you that what you did hurt my feelings, it doesn't matter if you feel that what you did was not wrong. It just doesn't matter. And he said, yeah. And I was just like, wow. Okay. So if I'm sitting here crying, expressing my feelings, it doesn't matter to you? He says, no. I'm never going to care if I feel that what I did was okay. And I was just like, okay, so you're just never going to care about how I feel then. That's what he was saying. He's never going to care about how I feel because he's never going to feel that anything he does or is doing is wrong. I should have left then. But thinking and just feeling stuck and hopeless and not believing in myself. Because over that span of 17 and a half years, he beat me down to the point of where I had lost all hope. You know, I didn't have my mom. I didn't have my family my mom's family. The only person that I did have in my life, my sister Brandy, I would always isolate myself from her because I was just so depressed. I was in such a dark, sad place. I felt hopeless inside. He really had me believing I couldn't do anything without him. And so I knew I had to gain my independence, you know. And see, the healing process comes, is everybody's healing process and journey to the realization when you're in an abusive relationship is different. There's no time frame you can put on. So on that first step towards healing and even realizing, you're going to be in denial for a long time. And I was in denial for a long time. I was really thinking he was going to change. I was really hoping that he was going to change. We had kids. I didn't want to, I didn't want to be, and I didn't believe that I could be a strong single mom that did it on her own. And so I was in denial for a long time as to who I was even really in a relationship with. Like, for a long time. Then you'll start to feel guilt. Once I began to see him for who he was, I did begin to feel guilty. And that was also another way that I began to just isolate myself from my sister Brandy and from, my close friends that I had known since junior high. And I felt guilty because it's like, I got myself in this relationship. Oh, my stomach is growling. I'm hungry, y'all. If y'all hear it, know that I'm hungry. But I felt guilty because I'm like, I got myself in this situation. I had so many opportunities to leave, but I always came back. And so I was beating myself up. And you will do that because you feel guilty and you blame yourself. And it's not your fault. And you begin to bargain with yourself. You begin to, and I did this as well, you begin to, feel stuck. You're not 100% ready because you don't know how. You think it'll get better. You do everything in your power to be this perfect partner, this perfect spouse, and it's doing nothing. It's not helping. Nothing's getting better. You walk on eggshells. And when I say, you guys, and I grew up in a house like that, I used to walk on eggshells. And I found myself walking on eggshells. And it was stressful. Every day was stressful because you never know what you're going to get. You believe it's you. You think that if you change, if you do this, if you do that, doesn't work. Then you find yourself in depression. And you can begin to grieve because and see, I didn't even know I was depressed. Like, I had absolutely no idea I was depressed. And I was grieving. I remember I came to a point where I just remember thinking, like, who is this? Who is this woman? Who is this girl that I see? This isn't me. I'm not strong anymore. Like, I used to have such a strong vocal stance that I'm realizing I don't even speak up for myself anymore. I'm just like, who is this girl? I was sad. I was depressed. Not knowing I was depressed, but I just knew that I wasn't happy. I knew that I had lost myself. And I began to realize that he's never going to change. He's always going to be this way. And there's nothing that I can do about it. And I want to leave. I don't want to be in this. So I remember thinking, I need to get my independence. I need to get a job. I'm going to go back to school because I need that in order for me to leave. So I started going to school. I got a job. And even then, he would try to sabotage me. I remember there was a time I was a makeup artist and he wouldn't watch our daughter. He would tell me, you have to figure it out. You're their mother. And I'll be like, but you're their dad. Well, I have things to do. We're supposed to be a team. But see, that was his way of abusing me financially and just making life for me harder. Because the harder that he could make it for me, hoping I would just give up and just revert back to the old ways. But I began to figure shit out. I had daughter in daycare. Our son was in school. And then one day I had to go to work, but she was sick. And he wouldn't watch her. So I had asked his mom if, she would watch my daughter. She said, of course. He calls his mother. He says, oh, you don't need to watch her. I got it. I'm going to watch her. Then he comes to me and he said, you're going to have to figure that shit out. My mom's not watching her. I called her and I shut that shit down. And I said, what? He was like, yeah, my mom's not watching her and I'm not either. You're going to have to figure that shit out. I was like, whoa, this dude is like on some, like, who does that? But a narcissistic person that does not want you to have independence. I lost that job. But then I said, okay, I'm just going to have to wait for her to go to school because it is just too hard right now. She got older. She's in school now. I'm going to school myself and I'm working still, dropping them off, picking them up, making sure my schedule is suited to theirs because he wasn't going to help me. He made that very clear all the time. Well, you need to get you a job because you have to drop them off and pick them up from school. I have shit to do. He didn't have a job. He was a hustler. So his schedule was suited to whenever he would wake up and get to it. I knew then. Okay. So mentally, I left the relationship way before I physically left. And that's that turning point. That is that turning point where you're no longer sad, you're no longer paralyzed by the fear, and you begin to take those steps to leave. Those were my steps. That was my turning point. Like, okay, you know what? It's time for me to get it together. And after I started having my episodes, my psychiatric non-epileptic syndrome, I remember, and this is just when I found myself so disgusted with the type of person that he was. So after my sister Brandy put me on to narcissistic abuse, and I began looking it up, doing my research, and just being like, oh, no. And he was, honestly, you guys, he was reminding me of my mom's husband. He is a narcissistic person, 100%. Once I saw that he was like him, I was disgusted, because when I say I cannot stand that man, my mom's husband, I cannot stand him. That's how I began to feel about my ex. Because it's like, you are that man. Ew. No. Ew. Like, ew. I found myself in a relationship with my mom's husband. I was disgusted. That they are two peas in a pod. And so after I began having the episodes, my brain, whenever it was overstimulated, it would begin to shut down as a defense mechanism to protect me. And so I would ask him all the time, like, please don't ask me a bunch of questions back to back because my brain can't handle it. Like, please don't do that. What the fuck you mean, don't ask you a bunch of questions? That shit sounds stupid. And I would be like, what? You're going to make me have a seizure. Like, you're making my brain just go ham right now. Like, it would tense, it would cringe up. And I would just be like, please stop asking me questions. You fucking crazy. What type of person can't be asked a bunch of questions at a time? Me. Like me. Can you do that for me? No, that shit is stupid. And he would make me have a seizure, a non-epileptic seizure. And I was just like, oh my God, okay, you know what? You're just not going to change. You don't care about how I feel. So having those episodes, I lost my job. I couldn't finish school. And it was just like, I got to get up out of here. So if you guys watch some of my other tell-alls, you know how I left. And so you have to begin working through that pain. And it's tough. Like, it's tough to work through that pain. I struggled because, one, I'm still hoping that he could change. Two, I didn't know how to navigate any of it. because I was still operating out of fear, not wanting to upset him, not wanting to get him mad. There's nothing that you could ever do to not make a narcissist get upset, have them not get mad. Because if you're going against them, they're going to be mad. They're going to be upset. How dare you? And so you have to work through that pain, and you also have to think that there is some trauma within you. There definitely is some trauma within yourself, because how did you miss the red flags? Well, one, you don't even know what the red flags are, especially if you grew up in a house like that. That's what you're used to. That's how your brain is wired to think this is a relationship. And so you also have to know it's not your fault. It's not your fault. So don't blame yourself. Give compassion to yourself. Once you can do some self-reflection, when you're in that healing process, be kind to yourself. Have compassion, because your brain is still operating on high alert. And so you're not going to know how to process those emotions. So give yourself grace, have compassion for yourself, and it is going to be a slow process. We've been separated for about 4 years now. Within this last year, I've really began to heal, my childhood trauma. Learning that, I've got some childhood trauma like I wasn't even aware of. And once I realized that I have some childhood trauma to heal, that's when you can realize, like, it's not my fault. This is how I've been programmed my entire life. So now, it's time to do some rewiring. Like, it's time to cut those wires, form some new ones, and program those into my brain. So during that process, definitely be compassionate. Definitely exercise self-love. And that can be anything. That can be doing an activity you like, starting to do hobbies, exercise. Definitely establish a healthy nutrition for yourself, because that's also going to allow your brain to chemically, once you just introduce healthy nutrition into your life, that's going to allow your brain to produce healthy chemicals. You're going to start to feel good. Sugar's not good for you. And I learned that in nutrition class, but also hearing it from my therapist tell me to eat good, healthy foods and not eat sugar, because you're releasing an addictive chemical in your brain. Sugar is addicting. It can also bring about depression if you suffer from depression. And so I did notice, I've always been a healthy eater, but I have my times where I like cupcakes, cake, and stuff like that. But all in moderation, you can't have it all the time. And so once I started to just see the difference within myself, I was like, okay, yeah, eating healthier makes me feel good. I know that going running makes me feel good. So I started back at that. And I just started to do things that Summer likes, that makes Summer feel good, because I have to take care of me and love me and heal me. And you have to come to a point where you're just tired of feeling that way. You're tired of being sad. You're tired of being down. You're tired of being in that darkness. Once you are over it, over feeling that way, you're tired of it. And so I said, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to live like this. So let me force myself every day to do things that make me feel good. And I began to feel good. My children started to see, like, yeah, Mom, you should go running. It makes you feel good. Go do it. And when I say they are like my biggest, like one of my biggest supporters, because my sister Randy, she is like my biggest, like, no, girl, you got this. You got this. My kids are too. So after work, that, Mom, go running. It makes you feel good. Go running. You love it. You love it. And I'll be like, you know what? I am. You know, so definitely also too, that's a big thing. Surround yourself with people that support you. Surround yourself with people that love you and will encourage you to take care of yourself and to do things for yourself. Big, big thing. And so once you begin to do that, you start to hope for the future. And it's like you almost welcome the future because you see that it's bright. You begin to see, like, oh my God, the future looks great. You begin to feel within yourself hope, belief, and the knowing, like, oh my gosh, I can. Because for so long, I never believed I could do it. And I'm doing it. Like, I am a walking testimony that you can do it 100%. During your healing process, you also begin to accept, like, okay, I know I stayed. I know I went back countless times. That's okay. It's okay. You know, like, we all fuck up. It's all right. Forgive yourself. Have compassion for yourself. It's okay. And then you also begin to understand the narcissist person, their role in the entire thing. And you begin to accept that. And you also begin to understand that they are who they are and they're always going to be that. So now, let me figure out how to handle you. Simple as that. You have to handle a narcissistic person. You're never going to... what it is you're going to understand and accept they're going to be who they are, and they're always going to do and try to do things to antagonize you, to suck your energy, and to just make you feel less than. So that's when you have to begin to handle them, because there's no working with a narcissistic person. No, you gotta handle them. Like my therapist told me, when you go into your garden, you know that there could be snakes. So you get prepared. You put your gloves on, you have your certain tools, and you go out there and you're consciously aware of you have to watch out for these snakes. And if you see one, you handle it. And I was like, ooh, I like that. Like, let me handle this thing, you know? And so I speak so heavy on this when it comes to handling a narcissistic person. Set your boundaries. Go no contact. And when I say go no contact, that means you don't get the privilege to hear my voice, because I know talking to a narcissistic person, you just want to try to manipulate me. You're going to say something to try and trigger me so that you can suck my energy dry and try to have me back at zero. No. don't let that happen. So when I say no contact, they don't get the privilege to hear your voice. They don't get the privilege to be in your company. You message me. You message me. That's it. And that's how we gonna function. You message me, and guess what? If you can't message me, that's a personal problem. And I've experienced this too, because it's court ordered that we talk on an app. That's how I want it, because when I left him, he would send me the most vile, disgusting messages. And it's just like, for what? And he wouldn't even send me naked pictures of other women and try to make me feel like they were better than me. Saying, oh, she's bad. She looks better than you. You're old. You have kids. I got tired of it. So yeah, it's court-ordered. Your ex narcissistic abuser messages you that way, communicate on the app, because it's recorded and they will have no choice but to speak with you with some respect, because they never want you to pull those message records to show anyone. Like, no, look, this is how this person is talking to me. They never want that. So that's another way to handle him. And that is also, too, how you maintain your peace, how you stay centered, because you're not allowing them to penetrate you. You're not allowing them to manipulate you. You're handling the situation, and you're doing it for you. And he even said, I'm making things complicated by him not allowing to call me, by him having to message me on the app. No, it's actually really simple. Message me on the app. We can communicate very clearly and easily on this app. It's just he doesn't want to do it. It's a personal problem. It's not my problem. Also, remind yourself, you are not responsible for other people's happiness. You're responsible for your own happiness, and if you have children, you're responsible for their happiness. That is it. Once you can begin to realize and understand that it's not your fault, it's okay. It is okay. Don't blame yourself. It's all right. It's all right. Heal your trauma. Once you can begin to heal your trauma, you honestly begin to learn how to process your emotions, because now you're aware of what your triggers are. A lot of noise outside. And so once you're able to realize your triggers, you're able to have more control over how you react to things. And you're also able to realize who and what deserves your energy and attention. And if it's anything that's negative, if it's anything that's harmful, not supportive, not loving, caring, it doesn't deserve your attention. It's not worthy of your energy. And so I hope for all of my brothers and sisters, if you're in a relationship with a narcissistic person, I hope that this is helping you realize some of those red flags. It's also helping you to find your strength and courage to stand up for yourself, regain your independence, start pouring love and compassion into yourself, so that way you can work towards leaving, because no one deserves to be abused, whether it's physically, mentally, verbally, financially. No one deserves to be abused. And it's going to take some time. So just be patient with yourself. Trust me, I was in it for 17 and a half years. I got out. It was long. It was a struggle. And I'm still even navigating, co-parenting with a narcissistic person. And it's never going to be easy. But it's all about how I react, how I respond. Because I'm only responsible for me. I'm not responsible for you. I'm not responsible for how you feel. It's not my job. It is not my job. I am my job. So be your job. Be responsible for you. Only you can control you. That is it. I do, like per usual, want to share a poem with you guys. It's from my book, Beautifully Dead. The link is in the bio. Go click it, get you a copy, so you can just get some healing within yourself, find some strength within yourself, because I promise you're not the only one. You are not the only one. But I wrote this poem when I began to confront my trauma, and I began to love myself. And growing up and not ever having value on yourself, not learning how to value yourself, not learning how to love yourself, it's going to be a lonely journey. But I promise you, go through that storm. Go through that storm. Quit running from it. There's nothing wrong with being alone and lonely. Yes, it's going to be sad. You are going to have your moments. But I promise you, once you can weather that storm, you begin to discover the light inside of you. You begin to discover how amazing and beautiful you are. The longer you run from that storm, the longer it's going to chase you. It's never going to go away. You got to go through it. Go through it. It's nothing to be afraid of. I promise you, I did it. I did it. You can too. I promise. You got this. You got this. Abandonment from others and indescribable pain, wished upon no one to feel. Left in the world to hold my own, picking up pieces of an injured heart, evading the coldness of what could be, not wanting to become that for those to see. Darkness crowded my soul, no light to be seen, walking alone for years unseen. Out of the shadows, a gift to be seen. Unknown of the powers inside, screaming to be released. Now is the time, open wide, mind, soul, and heart. How could I be alone when I've always had me? Self is what we need, and I'm giving it to me. Y'all know I love a good snap it moment. So go ahead, snap it up, snap it up, snap it up. It's like, it's nothing like becoming the goddess that you are inside, that you were meant to be. It's nothing like seeing the beauty inside of you. It's nothing like discovering your self-worth. There's nothing like pouring into you every day. And that could be pouring positive thoughts into you, pouring positive words into your soul, giving yourself good food. It is nothing like loving you. And you can start that as simply by telling yourself 5 good things at the start of every day. When you go to sleep, tell yourself 5 good things at the end of every day. Tell yourself, I'm proud of you. Tell yourself, I love you. Yeah, you might have fucked up today. You got triggered. That person pissed you off, whatever, but it's okay. You're still working towards it. You're still healing. And nobody is perfect. Nobody is perfect. And that is okay. You are great no matter what. You are amazing no matter what. So ground yourself in that. Ground yourself in that strength that you know you have inside. Begin to love every piece about you. Begin to know all those things that you're grounding yourself in. Begin to see all of the things that you tell yourself that you know you are, that you love about you. See it, envision it, manifest it, because you are. You are your light in your darkness. And the darkness is always going to be there. And when that darkness comes around, you shine brighter to let that darkness know how powerful you are, how amazing you are. And no matter how many times that darkness comes for you, you shine bright on its ass to let it know, nah, not today, not tomorrow, not the next day, because I know who I am. I know what I am. And no matter how many times you fall, you pick yourself right back up. And you hug yourself and you love yourself every time. Because you matter. And you are that dope ass chick. You are. You 100% are. You that dope ass chick. You that dope ass man. Like, you are that. So stand strong and firm in that. Remind yourself every day. I hope you guys enjoyed today's session. I began to feel a little powerful right there at the end. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this session of Divine Healing Poetry. Come back for more. Again, every Sunday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Don't forget, you guys, my book. It is available for purchase. Go ahead and hit that link. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Share your comments, share your story. I know I'm not the only one, and that is okay. It's okay. We all go through things, and that's okay. I love you all. Everyone have a good night. Enjoy.